Hey guys, how is it going? All right, I'm finally back. And actually this is take 2 of this video. I recorded a video of this game last night and I was actually quite satisfied with the video. I thought it turned out really well and made a nice little return to glory from taking a multi-month hiatus. But unfortunately, my recording software decided that it doesn't want to work on this monitor, and it wound up cropping the playfield to the point where you couldn't see any part of my hand at all, and my opponent Mad Hatter's cards were gigantic. And obviously, if you can't see my hand, it pretty much ruins most of the strategic components of the game. So reluctantly, despite the fact that I really like that video, I have decided to re-record it for your viewing pleasure, and I hope you guys appreciate it. I'm just going to paraphrase some of the stuff that I said at the beginning of the video prior. First of all, the reason why I actually stopped recording was because Magic the Gathering Online was having this perpetual error. I'm going to actually bring it up to show you what it looked like. It was this. Whenever you tried to record a game online and you tried to initiate any actions at all, you got this error. Sorry, an unexpected error occurred, and it was perpetual, and there was no way to get it to go away. And it happened every single time you clicked anything. And that pretty much closed the door on recording replays. You already know how bad the replay archiving is to begin with, and this bug made it pretty much impossible. So I stopped, complained to Wizards a few times, and a couple patches ago, or one patch ago, it looks like they finally fixed it. So back to recording. I had a few games in the archive from before November that had unfortunately expired, and I can't do those ones. They're gone. But I did find 2 good games from November that I recorded last night, and this is the first of those 2 games. I'll talk more about some other stuff actually in my subsequent video, because I don't want to belabor things too much here. But I do want to make some comments in the other video about the future of the 1v1 online commander format and where it's likely headed. But let's get to the action. I'm up against Mr. Mad Hatter 278, and I am playing my 1v1 Magic Online version of Omnath, which is pretty much identical to the multiplayer version. I think the deck, only really loses 2 cards that are notable. It loses Strip Mine, which of course is really important, and it loses Sylvan Library. Those 2 cards are both obviously very powerful in the archetype, but are not necessary. And Mad Hatter, what is that? Mad Hatter is playing pretty much the arch nemesis of the Omnath deck, which is Kess, Dissident Mage. If any commander in the 1v1 commander format online is probably worthy of banning, it's this one. There are a few other commanders that are right at the top of the heap. I would say Teferi, Temporal Archmage is one of those. I think that's right. That's the 6-mana Planeswalker. And certainly Brea herself is also a super candidate for banning. There's also Baby Jace, the 2-mana Jace, is super popular as well, particularly because of how good it works, or how well it works with combo decks. But Kess is at the top of the heap. There was a big tournament a little while ago, I think a 200-plus person tournament in this format, maybe last month. And some ridiculous proportion of the top decks were Kess decks. I think it was like 9 out of 16 or something. I don't remember it exactly, but regardless, the commander's insanely oppressive. It's in 2 of the 3 best colors, arguably 3 of the best colors, and has all of the tools, all the disruption, all the counter magic, lots of cheap spells. It ramps extremely fast. And, well, pretty much all the best spells in the format are in blue and black just about, and Kess allows you to cast them twice trivially. And it's a 3/4 flyer for 4 mana. It is just a ridiculous powerhouse of a creature, and clearly very, very imbalanced for 1v1. Omnath is good, but actually Omnath's at a huge disadvantage against Kess because the deck plays usually so much spot removal, which prevents you from aggressively attacking with Omnath in the early game, and they can just kill off Omnath with one of Black's removal spells when you started to generate a bunch of mana and empty out your whole mana pool and leave you pretty helpless. Plus, as a green deck, I don't really have very many ways of killing this creature or even disabling it. I'm not running the thing that turns it into a tree folk or whatever, because I think the card is a little bit too narrow, and I'm not running the thing that turns it into a land either. So my abilities to deal with Kess are basically blocking it with something like Steel Hellkite or killing it with Duplicant. Outside of that, I have to just go faster. This is a pretty good hand. It does have a Mox Diamond. Unfortunately, I don't have a second mana besides Gaia's Cradle, and as you know, Gaia's Cradle is probably the most powerful land in all of Commander right now. And certainly is the most powerful land in this deck, and I'm really, really reluctant to throw it away to Mox Diamond. Unfortunately, I don't have any cheap creatures to go with the Cradle, so unless I draw one, I'm probably going to have to throw away the Cradle to the Mox soon enough anyway. But I don't have anything to do on turn 1 regardless. I'm going second, hoping to just draw a little guy. So here we go. Mad Hatter keeps his hand. It starts off with Nihil's Spellbomb. All right, well, that's better than something like a Duress or a Soul Ring or a Crypt, so I'm not too unhappy to see that. All right, come on, creature. Primal Command. Not really a creature. So I'm just going to play the Forest here. I'm going to hold the Mox. There's really no reason to play it. Plus, often these decks with access to red will run a lot of red, cheap red artifact kill, things like a Braid and Vandal Blast. So throwing the Mox out there for no reason just to play something like the Lightning Greaves would most likely be a mistake because I would wind up with no mana if he did have an artifact kill spell. So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to play the Skull Clamp instead. 2 mana and done. All right. Really need to draw land here. Although a 1 mana creature would suffice because that would be like drawing a land in a way because it'll turn the Cradle on. Perfect. Red on schedule. Llanowar Elf. Would have loved to get that turn 1, but better late than never. And in this case, if I had had more land in play, the temptation to Skull Clamp the Elves right away would have been pretty high. Particularly if I hit another land, I could play the Mox Diamond and pretty much make up for the mana. But the Elf is really making 2 mana, not only just because of its mana generation ability, but also because of Gaea's Cradle. And I'm really pinched on mana here, and I don't expect the Elf to really live very long. So I kind of just need to wait. So he's sacking Nile Spellbomb, which is an indication to me that his hand is probably pretty light on mana as well. He may be digging for red. So that gives me a little bit of hope that the Elf can live through the turn. Thought seizes me, and with no hesitation he takes Lightning Greaves. And I think this is probably the correct play. Obviously the Thran Dynamo is probably the most powerful card in my hand, but at the same time I'm quite a ways away from playing it. I guess 1 more mana and I can play it, but I can't play that right now. Lightning Greaves is probably a nightmare for his deck, because if I get Greaves on Omnath, it really lowers the range of things that he can draw to deal with the board state, and he could probably just get beaten to death by Omnath. So I think that preemptively taking Lightning Greaves is the one thing that I can actually cast right now makes sense. So I do agree with that play. And then he plays a Badlands and he's done. Okay. Wall of Roots. Phenomenal draw right now. Not only because that's going to make Gaea's Cradle produce more mana, and this effectively is a free card, or free to cast, because it makes a mana and it makes a mana off the Cradle. So this is like basically just drawing 2 mana in 1 turn. Really lucky. So I'm going to play the Wall of Roots. That makes a total of 3 now between the Wall and Gaea's Cradle, which allows me to ramp Omnath out. Just like that. Such a good draw. And it's very resilient too. The 4 health means that it's resistant to quite a bit of the removal in this deck. Alright, goes back to Mad Hatter's turn. Oh, end of turn he's got an Abrade. He immediately just sends the Abrade at Omnath, which is an interesting play, but not too ridiculous. I might have, if I were him, I may have, well, depending on what he wants to do next turn, but waiting for me to float mana in my pool off the Wall of Roots to shrink the Wall of Roots down, maybe been a better time to play Abrade. But it'll depend on what he wants to do next turn. I guess yes, assuming he's just going to play Kess next turn. The Abrade makes more sense. All right, he's got all the red he needs. I fully expect him to just play Kess here, and instead he has Chandra Torch Defiance. Oh, it's really brutal. And he uses a -4 ability, and he goes after the Elf over the Wall of Roots. And when he initially did this, I thought that this was a bit of a puzzling play, given the fact that the wall makes more mana and is quite a bit tougher. But it actually does make sense, not only because I have Skull Clamp, but if he kills the wall, then I can just attack with the Elf into Chandra Torch Defiance and kill it. So this is a sensible play. Misty Rainforest. Very timely, very important. I'm going to hold on to the Mox Diamond for now, because if I do draw some more cards later on in the game, you're often in a position where you've got multiple lands in your hand, and that's a good time to play Mox Diamond. And he's got an Abrade in the graveyard, and I don't really want to play a mana source that costs me a land when he can just Abrade it. But it's the only way I'm going to sack that. And because the Dryad Arbor coming into play actually turns the Gaea's Cradle on and makes it make 2 mana temporarily, I see an opportunity here to not only play the Thran Dynamo through my Wall of Roots, but now I can actually clamp the Dryad Arbor, and maybe if I can get another land, I can play the Mox Diamond that way. So this is converting the Misty Rainforest into 2 cards, which is too good to pass up. And I don't, unfortunately, get another land. I do get another Elf and Big Terraston. I'm just going to clamp up my wall in case he does have some sort of Edict or Burn spell to remove that. I can draw 2 more cards. It definitely disincentivizes him from doing that. Back to his turn. All right. I'm really not liking my chances here. My mana is so dicey, and I'm fully expecting him, between the 2 mana made off Chandra Torch of Defiance, he can actually play his Kess and just Abrade away the Thran Dynamo, killing a huge chunk of my mana production. So he makes 2 red, which I fully expected. And down comes Kess, with the mana floating in his pool. Plays a Swamp, and there's Abrade, and he inexplicably targets the Skull Clamp. I cannot understand why he would do this. I mean, come on, man. I've got Thran Dynamo in play. It's like half my mana. I can't for the life of me understand why he would make that play, because his clamp is just not very good right now. And yeah, that's doing me a huge favor, because I've got a bunch more mana for this turn. Come on, deck. Greater good. All right. How much mana do I have here? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, it is enough mana to play an elf that turns the Cradle on again. And I think for a while about this, and I realize if he doesn't have anything further in hand, if he just has this Thoughtseize, I'm not going to be able to do anything to stop that. But my hand is kind of stacked right now, and if I can play Omnath, I can at least threaten some damage to get rid of Chandra before it starts to grow too much. And this is obviously assuming he doesn't have any more removal. But if he has more removal, I'm kind of screwed anyway. I'm very glad the Abrade's gone, though, because I would not have even been able to play Omnath in the face of that. All right, let's see what he does. He plays the Thoughtseize out of the graveyard. Looking at my hand for a bit, he takes Terastodon, which of course is totally sensible given the fact that I've got 1, plus another mana here, 2, and then untap 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I have more than enough mana to play Terastodon. I can actually also play the Genesis Wave too. And Terastodon would really blow his board up, because I would kill his 2 blue sources likely and the Chandra. He Thought Scours himself. Getting 2 more things, and then he must have drawn Inquisition of Kozilek out that. And there goes the sad Genesis Wave, which I would have loved to cast next turn. Chandra exiles a card and hits Treasure Cruise. You know, you might have wanted to do that before you played Inquisition, because if he had actually used Chandra's ability prior, he would have been able to draw 3 off the Treasure Cruise. But unfortunately, he's 1 mana short, if you notice. Actually, no, I guess the Inquisition paid for itself in that sense. That's true. But yeah, he's fortunately 1 mana short. He's got 2 here, 5 in the graveyard, and this thing costs 8, so he can't actually cast it. It just does 2 damage to me. He plays his Search for Escanta, another really high-quality card. He does not attack with Kess, which implies that he intends to protect his Chandra from my rampaging Omnath. I floated a mana at the end of the turn to boost Omnath to 3/3. Draw Fauna Shaman. That's not all that useful. I'm just going to send Omnath down at Chandra. Kess steps up to block. 7/7 trivially. God damn, his Cradle is so insane. And then post-combat, I tap my mana correctly here, because I don't know how many times I've played this deck, and I attack into some relatively medium-sized creature, like a 3-power creature, and then after combat I go to cast something with something like a Thran Dynamo untapped, and as I'm tapping mana, Omnath, and start to cast my spell, Omnath just falls over dead, because it's now a 3/3 or a 2/2 or whatever that's got 3 damage on it. You feel really dumb. So this time I was super careful, tapped my Thran Dynamo first, and I am going to cast the Greater Good. Sacking that, it gives me to 11 mana. And I've got, wow, 7/7 Omnath. This is drawing 7 and discarding 3, which is pretty incredibly powerful right now. So I draw 7, and I have to discard 3 cards. And after thinking about this for a while, I just decide that maybe the time for the Mox is past here. Since I only really want 1 land, and it's going to be the Ancient Tomb. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to throw away the Mox Diamond, the Carpet of Flowers, which only makes 1 mana right now, in the Forest. Sure enough, Carpet Mox in Forest. Tons of mana still available in my pool. I'm just 1 short of being able to cast this incredibly powerful Kozilek. But I do have Woodfall Primus in my hand, and this is the perfect opportunity to play this creature, which is probably on the bubble for big guys in my deck. Something came along that was better, and I'm certainly open to recommendations for a card that I might be not using, might be overlooking, that would work really well in my deck. I'm not using Avenger of Zendikar, primarily because the deck actually doesn't run a ton of lands, and so Avenger of Zendikar it's not really that flashy. The Primus's ability to kill 2 permanents, particularly in combination with the sack outlets like Greater Good, is often decisive, and in this case it's amazing, allowing me to kill both of these enchantments. Or not enchantments, well, both of these threats. I kill the Chandra Torch Defiance. And then I can sack it to draw 6 more cards, persist it back to kill the Search. Drawing 11 on 1 turn, or actually, what did I draw here? I drew 6 plus the sack. I drew 13 cards this turn, no big deal. All right, just discard some more mana. Yeah, this useless Fauna Shaman, which, oh yeah, that's right. That's another card that I had to cut. I have to use Fauna Shaman in my deck because Survival of the Fittest is also banned. That's the 3rd ban difference. So I play my Chrome Mox, and I don't know, maybe I should have suspended Primal Command here or something, because I was intending to cast Nature's Lore, but before I knew it, I just suspended Nature's Lore, and you see me tap 2 mana and go, oh wait, I just suspended the card I was going to cast. But that doesn't really matter, because I've got tons of mana in play, Greater Good to draw 5 more cards in Emergency, and he's down to just 2 cards in hand with no commander. And that is not and I've got enough mana to untap and play the monstrous Kozilek next turn, with greater good in play. So he's going to place Izzet Charm, which is obviously just desperation. When you're throwing away Counterspell against a big mana Omnath deck, you're definitely in dire straits. Kess Sleight of Hand, taking more damage. This is just desperation. He plays Ghost Quarter, kills off my Cradle, and a small reminder here. I've got to actually, I think I have to pause. All right, I think I'm back here. Sorry about that. Had to answer the door. So he's killing my Gaea's Cradle with a Ghost Quarter. It's sort of what you have to play with in this format, since there's no strip mine. And that allows me to go and search my library. And I think at this point the replay is going to fail to advance due to Magic Online bugs, but it's pretty trivial anyway. You can see me looking at my deck. This is the current build of it, actually. And I get a forest out, and it's going to take a little while. You can see time burning off on the clock. It's like 17:08, 16:50, and so on. The game was obviously going on at this point. I just fetched a forest. But eventually, I will manage to get a forest into play. Slowly but surely. Let's go. Now I've got this Prowling Serpentpod in here. This thing's really, really good in the 1v1 online format, because there's a lot of counter magic in the good decks. Come on. I believe in you. All right, there we go. Yeah, there's a bunch of bugs on the right there. Okay, so force comes into play, and after that, he doesn't really have much action. And coming back to my turn, and still trying to execute illegal commands, but comes back to my turn, and I smash in with the Woodfall Primus. Obviously, I attack there, and then I think I play Garruk Wildspeaker and a land 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I think I just played the Kozilek, and with that in mind, Mad Hatter draws his last card and scoops it up, which brings a really cool game to a conclusion. I was really, really happy to beat Kess. I've run into it so many times trying to play the Omnath deck, and have had my fair share of losses against it, which tend to be kind of uneventful, where they just value you to death pretty quickly. I maybe have lost 2 or 3 times to it over a span of maybe 10 or 12 games that I played the Omnath deck. But I thought you guys would enjoy this one as a good demonstration of seeing the 1v1 version of Omnath, which I don't think I've recorded any games for. And again, as I said before, I have another fantastic game with my Nin deck to record next. And I'm going to get to that, even though it means re-recording a game that I spent 21 minutes on. So look forward to that, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one, and talk to you soon.